Welcome to My Psychedelic Roots, a podcast of conversations with people from a broad swath of lived experience to explore their psychedelic beginnings or roots, what led them to start using psychedelics, what those early experiences were like, and how those roots have impacted their life's unfolding. My name is Amy Bartlett, and it is my hope that these stories, generously shared by my guests, offer perspective and insight into the lived reality of psychedelic experiencing. Please feel welcome to subscribe and follow the show to get the latest conversations in your podcast feed. And you are always invited to share this episode with others if you feel inspired. And so, as always, whoever, wherever, or whenever you are, welcome. I'm glad you're here. In today's episode, I'm in conversation with Matt Jaworski, a friend and one of the original founders of the Psychedelic Society that I and others now help run for the Ottawa community. In our conversation together, Matt shares about being born into a mixed family in the Ottawa suburbs, with an Anglican Eastern European dad and a Zoroastrian Indian Persian mom from Newfoundland. Matt also grew up with a differently abled younger brother, which had a big impact on his worldview and his relationship to the magical side of life. As we explore together, this magical worldview cultivated a deep sense of innocence growing up, while also eventually encouraging him to seek answers to why things are the way that they are and how to follow what feels right, not just what he was told. In our conversation, we talk about how his passion for organic food and curiosity about plants helped move him towards psychedelics. We talk about his eventual growing of his own mushrooms and having his first welcoming and warm experience with a psychedelic non-ordinary state of consciousness. It is a wide-ranging conversation and a snapshot into so much of what I admire about Matt, seeing his joyful and playful side on full display, while also appreciating his discernment and thoughtfulness as he navigates his relationship with psychedelic substances, as well as his relationship with himself and the world around him. It was a pleasure spending time together hearing his story, and to appreciating some of the magic with which he moves through the world. And so, let's hear more about Matt's psychedelic roots. Matt, welcome. It's great to have you here. Thank you for making time and for being open to sharing your story with me.
Thank you for having me on. It's an absolute pleasure.
So as we move into conversation, if there's anything that you think it's important for people to know about you and your background or your life today.
Yeah, I guess I come from a suburb of Ottawa. My dad is Eastern European background, and my mom is Indian Persian from Newfoundland. At least that's how she identifies herself as. And my brother is someone with severe special needs. Don't know the exact classification offhand, but he has an extra chromosome, suffers from spina bifida, catatonia, a lot of things. That's actually where I'd like to begin, because having him as a brother, I think, really impacted me the most, as well as my family makeup, which I just mentioned. But my brother in particular, I think, is quite pivotal, not only in my upbringing, but also maybe leading me into the psychedelic experience as well.
Yeah, well, maybe we could move to talk a little bit about your childhood.
Yeah. So I don't mind going ahead, and if you want to steer me into a particular direction, that's fine too.
I think that's amazing, Matt. That's great. Go for it.
Typically what I like to say is, and again, I think the reason why I try and focus on this is because I really do believe, like, you live your adulthood trying to figure out what happened in your childhood, if you will, and something that's always been very conscious about. So for me, I grew up in Barrhaven initially, and at the time it was a growing suburb, but it was also a tough neighborhood as well. We grew up just fairly close by a Quickie Mart or a Max Milk or whatever that was probably robbed every weekend. Just to give an idea of, like, it wasn't the greatest. It was okay. It wasn't extremely rough or anything, but there was, stuff going on in the 80s, early 80s. And I was picked on quite a bit as well. I had a couple bullies that would basically key in, I think, on the fact that, like, it was a little dorky kid, maybe a little wimp, but also like I look different than them. And so they probably keyed in on that and made me pay for it. I couldn't really figure out why. I was like, I didn't do anything to these people. And they would call me names and I would, ask my mom, like, what do they mean? And she would, like sympathize, but also try and be like, it's not important, like, not a big deal. And then just before I think I started grade one, we moved to Stittsville. And at that time, Stittsville, and again, another suburb of Ottawa, had about 1,000 people. Our street was mostly forest, I think, at the time. And so we were slowly a part of that build into now that I think is a community well over, I think, 90,000 people.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
pretty crazy. But when we moved there, I mean, the 417 ended. It was a gravel road after Carp Road. So
Wow.
it was quite the transition. And I think one that ultimately really, really helped allow me to grow up in a place that was secure, safe, and had an amazing community. I mean, the guys that I met with, mostly through sports, but also through school as well, like we're still friends to this day. And that's pretty rare from what I'm gathering in terms of like male social circles and the ability to maintain friendships for, 10, 20, 30 years. It was a great place to start. Don't get me wrong, there were still difficulties, obviously being looking a little bit different. You're going to get some bumps on the road, but ultimately too, I think because I had a group of people that did, love and appreciate me for who I was, really helped me counter some of those obstacles
Hmm.
that, and then turn them into strengths, I guess, as well. So that's
Yeah.
basically my upbringing, more or less in a nutshell.
I mean, I'm so glad for little Matt that you got to move into a more safe and nurturing context. I'm curious, you mentioned, when you moved to Stittsville at that time, there was a lot of forest, a lot of nature. I'm curious, what was your relationship to nature or to wonder or awe when you were a child?
So, so I guess I'll start with the nature because we didn't really get the nature exposure in Barhaven other than maybe walking through the odd, forest trail. But in Stittsville, right across the street, the house is backed onto Pool Creek. And that's
Mm.
actually where I learned how to skate.
Hmm.
But also, like, we'd collect crayfish and minnows. We built like a little log cabin, like a little clubhouse. There was always beavers around messing up all the water stream through their dams. Now it's the Trans Canada Trail, but before then it was the, I think, CN or Via Rail line
Mhm.
that would run through the forest. Developers wanted to rip it apart, but I remember getting out there with my mom and protesting these developers to maintain part of the forest, a battle which we won. I mean, not a whole lot of forest was kept, but at least enough to give it, somewhat of nature trail that is now, like I said, the Trans Canada Trail.
Mhm.
So I would say ultimately, it was good. Like we always spent time outdoors. Like as soon as you get home from school, like we were off playing, whether it was on Pool Creek or on the streets or in the ballparks or whatever.
Mm.
So yeah, just being outdoors and like I said, like we had beavers, we've had a couple bears, always frogs around. You always have to be careful cutting the grass.
Mm.
So yeah, I would say nature exposure was decent. Always outside.
Good.
Yeah.
Was there any connection between your experiences in nature and your spirituality or how you experienced yourself and the world?
I don't think as a kid I was conscious of that.
Hmm.
I think for myself, I just wanted to play and have fun
Mhm.
and be with my friends. Like that was it.
Or did your family have a spirituality or a religion in the household when you were growing up?
So my mom's side is Zoroastrian,
Mhm.
which is the first monotheistic religion. So quite old religion. And my dad grew up Anglican. I was baptized Anglican, went to a Catholic school. And I was interested in religion. Even today, I'm quite gullible. And so as a kid, like if someone told me something, I would believe them, especially if they were older, like my parents or whatever. So everyone said, this is God and this is Jesus, and I was like, okay, yeah, sounds good. Let's learn more. And I thought, my grandparents who lived more center town in Ottawa,
Mhm.
they were active members of the church where I was baptized, which is I think just off of Maryville.
Oh, yeah.
Older church. and the priest there was bald
Mm.
with a beard. So I thought he was God because I think everybody said like, "Oh, God's just an old guy, with bald beard." Like, "Oh, well, that's him right there." So again, quite gullible, pretty naive, but very interested and like down for, I guess, the message that Jesus presented, or at least what I learned in school up until when I was about 12 or 13.
What
And
changed?
I had a teacher who basically said, because I have a mixed family, and my granny, who's like the absolute sweetheart, she believed in like reincarnation, but loved her Jesus, but was Zoroastrian. So she was like everything. Like she didn't care, didn't matter to her, I think, as long as you were a good person. And she was amazing, such a gentle soul. I had a teacher that basically said like she's going to hell because she's not Christian. I'm like, well, I don't like this. And then I think that's kind of, again, like that probably kickstarted it, but also at that time, I think more and more people began to be, more and more kids began to be critical of what they were taught.
Mm-hmm.
And then sort of religion was kind of waning. I think I was searching for, I guess, okay, well, what is it then? And I think that really, really escalated as I got older. I
Mm-hmm.
think I first started diving into the actual history behind figures like Jesus, or the other religions as well. And I think that there was a grade 10, there was a world religions course that allowed us, to see about Judaism and Islam. And then we would actually go to the various worship, the fire temple or
Mm-hmm.
synagogue or the mosque or whatever. And that really, really, I think, helped me dive in a bit further into my spiritual journey.
Yeah.
And then in university, I took like an intro to religions course. I remember listening to, I want to say, Thomas Sheehan, who
Mm-hmm.
did a 10 or 12 part series about the history of Jesus
Mm.
and who historians actually think he was. So it takes him out of like the faith based character and presents him more as a historical figure.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think I read Zealot by Reza Aslan, um, to again understand a bit further about who this person was. And yeah, so I think from there, The Life of
Mm.
Pi, I think, was big too. I
Yes.
read that and I felt like that was it. Like that really articulated how I was feeling about everything. It's like, religion, I think, is just like a best guess, maybe, or tried to basically say, like, hey, be a good person, but also depends on what you're reading
Right.
in those scripts.
It's an interesting evolution, Matt, the way you described it. You'd accept whatever was offered as truth, and then this slow opening into other possibilities and feeling out what's right for you and not just what you were told.
Yeah, yeah, it's weird. And like I said, like I still feel like maybe I am somewhat gullible, but I nowhere near as gullible as I once was. But I also like that. I feel like, kids are innocent.
Mhm.
There's a lot of innocence there, and I still go back. It's like, well, why would anyone lie? Obviously, you learn why later, but as a
Mhm.
kid, I really actually cherished that. That's what I had, was like just a whole big pile of innocence, and just kind of believed what I was told
Hmm.
or learned in school.
I love that you had that experience and that you are grateful for that experience, That open-hearted acceptance is, yeah, I agree, is a really beautiful characteristic to have and to embrace and to nurture and cultivate.
It's a nice starting point. I, I
Yes.
I think, because also too, like the flip side of it is it's to think critical, which everybody should be,
Mhm.
and to become one, hopefully, and especially like that, to have that starting point. I think is yeah, a great journey. I think
Yeah.
one that I'm very appreciative to have.
Matt, you also in your introduction, you talked about your brother and how important your relationship with him and his experience was to your childhood. Do you mind telling us a little bit about experience was for you and how that influenced you or what that taught you as you were a
Yeah,
child?
And thank you for looping that back, because I do feel that ultimately my spiritual journey was fueled by him. Because even though I kind of believed everything that everyone was telling me, when it got to, saying, there is no other or there's no beyond, I would go back to my brother and be like, you know what? Like, no, there's something magical here, and he's proof.
Mm.
And I think ultimately that's his biggest gift that I've received from him. Because when he was born, the doctors said like he'd be just a vegetable, and like they even offered my parents to like to pull the plug.
Mm.
And my parents were like, no, like we're like he's our son.
Mhm.
And they've fought so hard for him to have the best life that he possibly could. And like what a gift he is to everyone that knows him.
Mm. How old were you when
um,
he was born?
so I'd have been about a year and a half. Like I was born in 83, he was born in 85.
Wow.
uh, and he like you say, he's such a interesting human being. He only can speak about maybe 200 words, like vocabulary wise. He doesn't have a lot of motor skills, but he's an amazing speller. He's really good at math. He was unbelievable keyboard player. He could play
Mm.
back a tune to you no problem. He was good at video games. After he hit puberty and like a lot of medication, he's suffered a lot from a catatonia spell. He's done electric shock therapy. I think over time, unfortunately, like the Tommy that I grew up with kind of changed a lot, and like he's still there, but it's hard. It's not the same as he once was when he was a kid, and he was able to be more of who I think he was. So it's hard. My mom's done an amazing job making sure, again, like I said before, that he has support. And so they take him out to like horseback rides and stuff like that, or like taking the museums and stuff like that. So I think he lives a rich life, which is again like a magical journey for somebody that the doctors would say don't even bother.
What were some of the lessons that you've carried throughout your life that you learned in growing up with him?
Again, it's like the world is magical. Like there's something, whatever you want to call it, like something's going on. But also like don't give up.
Mhm,
Power through, enjoy life,
mhm,
including the bad. Take it all in.
mhm.
And everyone has like good in them. I don't know if everyone is good, but I think everyone definitely has the capacity to be, quote unquote, good.
Mhm.
And we're much more similar than I think people might realize. Or
Yeah, that's well
yeah.
put. And so I'm curious, Matt, as you grew up in this context of multiple cultures, multiple homes, multiple religions, a sibling that had a very different lived experience than you, and just sort of like holding all of these multiplicities. I'm curious, as you're holding all of this and experiencing all of this, was there a particular moment or conversation or experience that first introduced you to psychedelics, or were psychedelics ever discussed in your family?
So when I was a little bit older, like I was like maybe 16, so
Mhm.
getting ready for drinking age, if you will, my mom came over and she said, "No, don't ever drink, don't ever smoke, you're gonna die." So I
Wow.
was like, okay. And I didn't touch anything. I think I drank a little bit like when I turned 19, I started drinking, but stayed away from smoking. So and that included weed, and never even knew about psychedelics. I remember the here and there, some of my buddies would do mushrooms, and at a party, I would stay away, obviously. So around when I was, so I'll say 2012, I was taking a master's degree in international development in Halifax at St. Mary's,
Mhm.
and getting together with the students that were, taking the same degree. We were a pretty tight knit group. One of the PhD students was shocked that I had never smoked weed,
Hmm.
or I was like, what are you doing here then? Basically, I was like, oh, and he's like, oh, it's great for expanding your mind. And I'm like, okay, interesting. So I started reading in on it, and I'm like, oh my God, this is fascinating. And that led me to psychedelics, but also to, I want to say that I became really interested in the like our food system.
Yes.
And it was part of my studies, but also became a bit of my passion when I was in Halifax. And I loved the farmers market there. And
Mm.
for most of the year, I would try to basically to have all my food at the farmers market. And so I was eating pretty good. And I
Mm.
have a theory. Obviously, I can't prove it, but I wonder that eating local organic food brought me to psychedelics. You are what you eat. And I wonder if it kind of led me onto that path as well.
Make that connection for me, or why do you wonder that?
So oftentimes, when people talk about psychedelics, they talk about
Mhm.
plant-based knowledge.
Yes.
So who's to say that eating organically raised food doesn't also provide you with some knowledge? And I liked, again, maybe being a bit whimsical, but maybe those good potatoes that I was eating led me to ayahuasca years later, or mushrooms. I don't know, but
Exactly.
I like to think they played a role.
I really love that, Matt. I think that's so interesting. You know, I agree with you. A lot of people in this space think about and talk about, appropriately, plant teachers, sacred plants, the connection between the natural world and the plant world and our human experiences and the reverence and sacredness that exists in that space. How neat to think about it as not just the psychedelics that we consume and that relationship, but also the food we eat. I think
Yeah,
that's really cool.
I I mean, I would love to do a PhD on it, but it kind of did to
Mhm.
me. It makes sense, so
Hmm.
I'm sticking with it.
So you were at St. Mary's working on your master's. You were exposed to cannabis. You were sort of reading things, presumably having experiences. Was there a particular moment or a resource that you read or a conversation you had that made you start to wonder about the psychedelics themselves
So
and that they might be something that you would want to experience?
yeah, so maybe just sorry clarify that
Of
I
course.
actually still didn't do anything when I was over there. I didn't start smoking until I was 33, so that would have been probably after my master's.
So
So in the
then
meantime, what I did, well,
yeah.
I should say this too. I did volunteer and spent some of my time in Tanzania to do my field research for my thesis.
Mhm.
And so I think with all of that, really made me want to dive in a bit further now to see, okay, what can psychedelics do for not only myself, but the community. And then as I was reading about the history of it, I'm like, oh my God, like they're so amazing.
Yeah.
And maybe, and then I think this is connecting with what I was learning in school and in previous degrees about poverty and potential the causes and maybe even solutions to.
Mhm.
I thought that maybe psychedelics could be a missing piece
Mm.
or a tool that we could use to maybe help alleviate the problems that we face as a society.
Mhm.
And so that really spurred on my reading and then eventually doing.
Mhm.
If you were to ask me about like what was the book that got me
Yeah.
going, I want to say there's a
Oh,
it's
yeah, Fadiman.
Fadiman.
James
Thank you,
Fadiman.
James. So he wrote a book. I
Mhm.
want to say the Psychedelic Explorer's Guide.
Exactly. Yes.
Okay. So where he talked
Classic.
basically about LSD.
Mhm.
And that was my first psychedelic book that I read. I loved it. Would later get the opportunity to do LSD and had an amazing time. I think that was one of my first psychedelic experiences.
Mhm.
Prior to that, I would say I did end up growing mushrooms and did mushrooms for the first time in a home brew, which was great.
Mhm.
And aside from that book, there were some others, but I think the biggest sort of influencer was Terence McKenna.
Mhm.
Oh. He spoke a lot about psychedelics, and that kind of spurred me on as well. I feel, especially who to look up and read about.
Mm.
While at that time I was embracing marijuana quite a bit, so
Nice.
that was the rocket ship that I guess took me off.
I'm curious in this era of exploration and moving into your experiences, was your mother's voice in the back of your head anywhere? Because it sounds
No,
like that was
you know
quite a
what?
powerful voice as a teenager.
So it was, and obviously still is, like, just my mom, but I've grown up now to be like, "No, mom." So, but I was always open about it. I never feared reprisal from her. You know, but that's who she is too. Like, she's as long as you're not doing something stupid, like, you're okay. And to this day, every once in a while, I'll bring up a psychedelic conversation with her to say, like, you should do them. But she shied away. But I think she's definitely warmed up to them more so now too, because she reads the studies as well, and I think sees a role for them. It's just not for her, and that's totally fine. Yeah,
So maybe we could move into talking a little bit about your first psychedelic experience, if that's okay.
yeah, yeah, totally.
Yeah. So if your first psychedelic experience were a chapter in your life story, what would the title of that chapter be?
Good morning. Yeah, I think it was beautiful.
Mm.
It was so welcoming, so friendly, so gentle, so much fun. Yeah, it was like, "Hey, like, you're here." Like, it's yeah. I don't know if I even wanna go beyond that. Like, what I experienced was great, but the feeling was just fantastic, and I was, I guess, not necessarily even surprised because I did read up on what to expect. So I was a bit more prepared maybe than some other people that might do psychedelics just because their friends doing it or whatever, or they're young and don't know. But yeah, I just like to feel so welcomed and loved. It was a beautiful opening day.
Mm. Do you mind if I ask some questions about the circumstance and how that unfolded for you?
Yeah, so I guess I grew them,
So it was mushrooms.
grew mushrooms. Didn't take too much, like maybe a gram. Did them with my then girlfriend in our apartment, and I think we watched Tron together, which was great. It was the not the newest one, but like the first one of the remakes or whatever. At one point, I think I went to lie down by myself and just close my eyes and just kind of I wanted to see what space was like. I remember, and then I remember, like, like a Deep Space Nine sort of
Yeah.
theme vision.
What was the come up like for you, Matt? Your first time moving into a non-ordinary state of consciousness? Were you nervous? Were you excited? How did that feel?
So I think nervous, scared at first. Didn't really don't know what to expect. I think I'm pretty sure I fasted that day because I wanted to do, like, treat it like a special, like, sacrament, if you will,
Mhm.
like, show it respect and show it like the medicine that it is. And I remember when I first took it, like, I just remember taking it and just going like this, like, so just moving way up into the stratosphere. And like that was the feeling, so much energy and positivity and happiness and like oneness. It was beautiful. It definitely allowed me to connect with my partner as well, which was really special.
So a relational experience both with the mushroom and with the person you were with.
Yeah, yeah, for sure,
That's
totally.
really cool.
Yeah,
And so you
no,
had these feelings of welcoming and warmth and connection, and you also had this, you described an experience of space and being here and not here? I don't know.
yeah, I don't know. I feel like I was grounded, if you will, for the most of the time, even though I was, pretty high. And I think the space part of it was kind of at the end of the trip,
Mm.
and it was just something I wanted to try because, again, like, Terrence McKenna would like ask the mushroom type thing, so it's kind of when I tried, and
What did you
what
ask it?
I think I just said, show me space or something along those lines, or like, where are we going type thing, or what's possible. I can't really remember what my question was, but that's what I saw.
And what did you learn in that first journey?
Oh, it sounded like Celine Dion here, but the power of love for sure,
Mhm.
and how connected everything is. And also too, that the psychedelic journey did begin before I took them, and it continued long after like the effects of the trip ended. I, I think it taught me like it's like life's a progression, or it kind of keeps going type thing. Yeah, I want to say that's probably the takeaways that I got out of that one.
Those are some big
And-
takeaways.
yeah, and continue to get as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm curious, what was the come down like for you in that first experience? So you were with your partner, you were watching a movie, but you also had some alone time. How did it feel coming back to Earth?
I think peaceful, and there's like a bit of an afterglow, I think.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Did you do anything to integrate your experience, knowing that you had the Fadiman book and had read some of the sort of narrative arc of psychedelic experiencing that's recommended in that preparation, experiencing, and integration cycle?
Yeah, so from what again, it was a while ago, and it wasn't like an earth-shattering trip necessarily.
Mhm, mhm,
So I felt like it's just like, okay, just keep going the direction I was going. I think then I was kind of like, okay, like who else is doing these, and what are they experiencing? And I think that probably did lead me to contact the Toronto group
mhm,
and learn more, and to an integration circle was
mm.
my first community experience, which was amazing.
That's really cool. I'm glad you
Yeah.
got to integrate in community,
Yeah.
that first
No,
one.
it was really, really good. It made me want to do what they were doing,
Mm,
but like, it was just amazing to hear everyone's different experiences and what
mhm.
they did and went through and where they're coming from, where they're going. It was awesome.
Did you integrate it all with your partner, or what was their experience of your trip, do you think?
From what I remember, it was just like connection, love,
Mm,
joyfulness, just like a lot of fun. We were probably about a year or so into our relationship, so it was a good time,
mm.
basically.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
that's great. Is there anything that you wish you had known before you had that first experience?
I don't know. I don't think so. Like I said, I didn't. I read about, I did my own research, and so I feel like, all I knew, like, yeah, obviously you could always know more, but I think I think I knew enough to do it. I'm happy I did it. I'm happy I did it when I was older. Yeah, I don't think I would do anything differently. I'm glad
Mhm,
I also do like the fact that I grew them, I thought was great, because like, even like while they're there, I'm like looking at them like, man, these things are aliens. Like, you just look at them and you're feel a little trippy.
mhm.
Yeah, I don't think I'd change anything.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
I'm curious too, Matt. You opened talking about your brother, and you talked about one of the lessons or one of the things you appreciate so much about your relationship with him is this concept of magic. I'm curious if that magic was part of that first experience or if that has been a part of your psychedelic experiencing and practice.
Good question. Certainly, it's in my experiences with psychedelics, and then after sort of the trip fades, like I still feel that sort of presence or wave, and I've definitely become more. I don't want to say I've become more spiritual, but definitely pay more attention to the existence of what I would say spirits for sure. Like, I have no problem saying that, because I've been, throughout my life now, like in my 40s now, and I do feel like it, there was times where I would feel this sort of energy, whether it be negative or positive, and I feel like that's the spirit. That's the spirit that, I can now feel more so, and I think it's thanks to this psychedelic journey that I went on.
Yeah.
Sorry, I don't know if that I can't even remember your question.
No,
I
that's
kind of got
beautiful.
lost in there, but just kind of thinking of sometimes like how I was in sort of intense situations where it was very, very powerful emotionally and spiritually, kind of brought me back to some of those times. So
Yeah.
yeah, like definitely, like magic is there, 100%.
Yes. Yes. What is your relationship with psychedelics today?
It's kind of. I don't want to say at the end, because I think always do psychedelics, but just less frequently now.
Hmm.
I do think I had a couple trips fairly recently within the past couple of years where it was kind of like, okay, you got the message now,
Yeah.
hang up the phone. And they were difficult and surprising. Like, I gotta say, I did not expect to, I guess, act like that or
Mm.
feel that. Despite, again, like the research I did, I was like shocked and quite disappointed in myself, I gotta say. But I think, again, like the beauty of psychedelics is like, it's not necessarily going to give you what you want, but it's what you need. And sometimes, I guess in my case, it's like a harsh lesson and it's just the way it is. And so I think I would say it's almost like I'm in like a retirement phase, if you will, where
Hmm.
I didn't even do that much, I would say, ultimately over the past 10 years or so, and never really in an abusive way, always, respectful. And so I think now where I'm at is go out and do what you've always wanted to do and what you wanted to gain from psychedelics, and then come back to psychedelics.
Mm.
Is that's kind of where I'm at now. And if I do, because I'll do like a little bit of mushrooms here and there if I'm going camping or something like that. I'll just do like a little bit, but I won't do the big doses anymore. I would love to still go to, the jungle and do ayahuasca, but I think that's maybe down the road, not necessarily right now.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I love the spaciousness in your relationship with these substances, both in how you came to them and your curiosity and your exposure before you finally take them. You even grew your own before you even tried them. And I love that same spaciousness in the phase you're in now of like, I don't know, I'm listening, I'm waiting. It is what it
Yeah.
is, there's a real groundedness, it feels like, in that
Well,
relationship you have.
like I feel like the psychedelic experience is very humbling, and to ultimately really get the most out of it, you kind of have to like let go, because you're not in control anyway. Why would you want to be? And so that's also why how I feel like, you know what, like I will do them again X amount of whatever when they want me to.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
As we wrap up our conversation, it's been so lovely, Matt, to get to hear your story and to
Great.
hear.
Thank you so much. This is awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As we're closing the conversation, I'm curious, what advice would you give someone who is thinking about psychedelics and whether they might be something that they want to explore or not?
I would say definitely do your research, read, listen to Terrence McKenna and some others, talk about these substances. Also understand that that is their experience or what they want to say about them. And then make sure that if you do decide to do them, whatever that psychedelic may be, make sure your set and setting are safe. And if you want to do them alone or with someone, make sure that, you have the trust in them. Uh, and and definitely let go.
Mm.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Don't be controlling. Don't try to control. Let go.
Mm.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much, Matt. It's been such a pleasure hearing your story. And thank you for sharing a little bit of the magic that
Thank
you've experienced.
thank you so much for allowing me to share. This was great, and it was kind of fun to go back to piece what I could remember of my life.
Yes.
Uh, it was a lot of fun. I feel like I just maybe even had a little psychedelic journey right there. I think also too, I gotta say, like that's the beauty of psychedelics is like you experience, that unconscious realm, if you will, but then you kind of relive it in everyday to day life. Uh,
Mm.
and you really get to appreciate those moments, I think, even more.
Mm. Well put. Thank you so much, Matt. It was a real pleasure.
Thank you.